Oh, that's in.
Blistering starts to a tennis match.
The Shakespeare got it wrong. It wasn't King Lear. It's King Lear.
LeBron James with no regard for human.
Yuvraj Singh finishes things off on style.
This is a Newslaundry podcast, and you're listening to NL Playoffs.
Hello and welcome to NL Playoffs. This is round 21 of the NL Playoffs. My name is Gautam. I have with me my co-host Aniket. Aniket, say hi.
Hello world.
Aniket, how's it going? How's your sporting last 2 or 3 weeks been?
Fantastic. So sport has been keeping me awake, alive and kicking in the past couple of days, especially this week, I would say. So I'm having a blast. Given everything that's happening in other parts of my life, sport's keeping me excited.
We are recording this on the 25th of May. It was about 8:15 a.m. in the morning, India time. Especially, Aniket, the 22nd of May was a Sunday. Somewhat of a great sporting day. We had Formula 1 going on. We had the final day of the Premier League. There was IPL going on. There's a lot of stuff going on at the same time.
Oh, 100%. And a lot of this we will talk about towards the end of the episode in much more detail. So I'm super excited actually to talk today about everything that's happened. And let's not forget, a lot of the Indian athletes have made India proud. So that's one more thing I'm looking forward to talk and learn about.
Yeah, so we have a packed episode coming up today. We are at round 21, as I said earlier. That's equivalent to 3 weeks. 3 7s 21. So we've produced 3 weeks worth of content. I still can't believe that. But having said that, let us get to what we are going to talk about in this episode. We are going to have a really special guest on this episode. We're going to have Xenia D. Kuna, who was with us earlier talking about the Olympics. She's going to be back again to talk to us about India's superb Thomas Cup win in badminton. We're also going to talk to her about Nikhat Zareen, who just won the Women's World Boxing Championship in Turkey. She's become only the 5th Indian woman to be crowned world champion. So that is a great achievement. And then the Thomas Cup, first ever Thomas Cup win for India, who beat Indonesia 3-0. So that was quite an achievement. So I'm looking forward to talk to her about this. And also, as I said, as we alluded to earlier, Aniket, we have the Premier League going on. So I'm sure you have a lot to say about that.
Oh yeah, and I've not asked this question back to you, but how was your sporting week been from India?
Dude, it was crazy, right? So I think around 6:30 or something is when the Formula 1 race started. So I started watching that. It was perfect because at 8:30 it was all the games were starting in the Premier League. So there was that going on. I think there was the IPL going on in between. I think it was the Royal Challengers Bangalore. No, it was not the Royal Challengers Bangalore. Somebody was playing. All these games are merging into one full game for me. So a lot of sport was going on. It was perfect. I was double screening. I was not second screening it. I was double screening. So I had the City game on the TV, then I had Liverpool game on my laptop, and then I flipped to the Liverpool game on the TV and the City game on my laptop. It was great. And as soon as the race concluded, the Premier League started. So it was just great.
Yeah, same situation here too. I was also screening both the title contenders games, so it was pretty exciting. Yeah, let's get into it. Let's not
by
wait
the
any
way, I was
longer.
double screening on Sunday, and then I was second screening last night because I was working, so I had to have the IPL game on the background. So there's that. There's that for you. There's double screening and there's second screening. But yes, we're going to talk about the Premier League. City win in dramatic style, clinch the Premier League title by 1 point. They end up at 93 to Liverpool's 92 points. We're going to talk about that. We're going to touch a little bit on the IPL. We are going to talk about the NBA playoffs. Name check for the NL playoffs. NBA playoffs. We are coming to the fag end of the tournament. We have four teams left, and it's exciting. We also have the French Open starting, which is just in the first round right now. So we'll see if we have enough time to talk about that or not. But as soon as the French Open completes, we'll have our special guest subscriber that we always have, Abhijit, on. So I'm looking forward to that conversation once the tournament concludes as well. and then we'll probably close it out with a little bit of Formula One.
As always, we will talk Formula One. So yeah.
All right, so let us talk to Xenia now, Aniket. We are going to let's talk to Xenia first. We are glad to welcome back to our podcast Xenia Dikuna, who's a sports journalist with ESPN India. Xenia, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me again. It's so good to be back.
Awesome. So, Xenia, as we were just alluding to you earlier about us leaning on you, because we really want to talk about India's Thomas Cup win in the world of badminton, and also talk about what Nikhat Zareen did. But we'd like to just start off with the Thomas Cup win. For those of you who haven't been following, India just won the Thomas Cup tournament, which is a men's international badminton tournament. It's like the Davis Cup of sorts in the world of badminton. Now India won it for the first time ever. But Xenia, if you could give us some context as to how big this tournament is in the world of badminton in the first place, and secondly, how big is it that India actually won this tournament for the first time ever?
Absolutely. So to cut a long story short, this is very big. The Thomas Cup is essentially the World Team Championship for men's badminton, and the women's version is Uber Cup, and they happen simultaneously. So it's usually just Thomas and Uber Cup. The women's team has won 2 Uber Cup medals in the past, but here's the thing: India had never won a Thomas Cup medal in the past, and for your first medal at a World Team Championship to be a gold, it's pretty significant. To really put it down, this was the first time that India were in the semi-finals in this new format, where a bronze medal is assured for both semi-finalists. So in a way, it was already pretty groundbreaking, like your first medal at the Thomas Cup. To then reach the final and then win it in the manner that India did is what really, sets it apart. You play 5 matches, which is singles, doubles, and singles. You have to have a 3-0 win. And in the quarterfinals against Malaysia and the semifinals against Denmark, it came down to the final match. Now, the format is such that you play your top ranking in ascending order. So the 5th match is played by technically your lowest ranked player, which in India's case was HS Prannoy. And that was one of the most underrated advantages we have. Because of Laksh Sen sort of shooting up the rankings in the last 6 months, he was India number 1, which made Prannoy, who's a proper veteran and a really, really bankable player decider. That is what clinched it. Against Malaysia and against Denmark, he clinched the 5th singles. And, it came to a point where against Indonesia, who I might add are 14-time champions and the most successful team in history, they didn't even need the 5th match because it was a 3-0 blank victory. I can't be more excited about this as I explain this, because for several reasons, right? For the Thomas Cup victory, several things had to fall in place. And 2 of the most important factors were 2 very young, early 20s teams. One is Laksh Sen, and the other is the men's double team of Satvik Sairaj, Janki Reddy, and Chirag Shetty. These 3 were the key difference, is what sets this campaign apart from everything else. But for Laksh Sen to be India number 1 and to have a men's doubles victories 4 out of 5 is massive in the context of Indian badminton.
So it's also super interesting, right? Because at least I love the sport of badminton, but I wish I had followed it as much as I really love playing it. And the men's badminton especially has been on a rocky boat for the past couple of years, especially given that we had Srikanth and Prannoy, who did not qualify for the previous Olympics. And here comes, you mentioned Lakshya Sen, who shot up the ranks and truly played a game of someone who was super experienced, because he came back and then really won what I would call a solid first game.
Right. So if I was trying to narrate this like a story or a film script, I would put it like this. There was the Olympics, which had just one Indian in men's singles, which is Sai Praneeth. In December, we had the World Championships of Badminton, in which for the first time there were 2 Indian men on the podium. Men's World Championship medal was rare, and to have 2 Indians, and both of them met in the semi-final. So that was a bit of a turning point. where Laksh and Shrikant met in the semi-finals of the World Championship, and now cut to May, where both of them are part of the first ever Thomas Cup victory. To put it shortly, I think the Olympic setback really changed a lot of things, personally also for the players. And then Lakshsen shooting up the ranks from the World Championship, getting these victories over top five ranked players in the first half of the year, reaching the final of the All England. It propelled him to be India number one, which is a bit of a mixed bag advantage in the sense that this may sound very off, but if because of the way the Thomas Cup draw is ordered, your top ranked player is playing the opposite top ranked player. In that sense, your first match can be a real write off, where your he played Axelsen, the world number one. Now he's beaten Axelsen just earlier this year. What worked is you had Shrikant and Pranav, your bankable veterans, right down the order. If it was flipped, say, who knows what could have happened. Laksh is a great player, but to be in that pressure situation, sometimes you need that experience, which Pranoy had. And Shrikant, well, this is something I wrote in my article post Thomas Cup as well. Shrikant is a lot of things, but he is not usually consistent. And to win 5 out of 5 matches here, bang in the middle, which is the crucial. The third game is so crucial in a 5 match series that it's just different things and just different aspects of each player fell into place at the same time. And it really felt very serendipitous in a way that this had to happen in May, less than a year after the Olympic setback, 6 months after a turning point of the World Championship.
For sure, I think it probably proved to be, for Shrikant at least, he was probably in an unexpectedly advantageous position, because by the time he played the third match, India were already 2-0 up. So that can only help him, right? He probably had not as much pressure as he would have had, let's say, if he was going into that match with 1 game apiece or something like that. But I think probably what the most crucial match, as it turned out to be for India, was the second match, where the doubles team of Satvik Sairaj Rankireddy and Chirag Shetty won. I don't know, Zina, if you were actually in Bangkok covering this, or if you're in India covering this or not, but I'm sure you watched this live in some capacity. So talk to us about that game itself. I know they saved 4 match points as on their way to their victory in the third game. I think they saved 4 match points in the second game of that match. So talk to us about that doubles win in the second match.
Yes, I was waiting for this to be a special category, Sachi, as they are, as Indian badminton fans have coined the term. So if I were to ask you, or somebody who's followed a lot of Indian badminton, to name an Indian men's doubles pair which has been this consistent at this high a level, it would be difficult for even the most ardent fan to name one, mainly because men's double has not really been India's forte in the past. And in Thomas Cup, you have to win 2 doubles ties, or at least win 1 doubles tie to have a shot. And I think that was the ultimate turning point for India. Because if you see, the 4 doubles was played by India had 2 pairs throughout the Thomas Cup, and they were both quite inexperienced compared to Satvik and Chirag. And had the second doubles not been won, this entire tournament could have a different look. Then I add another layer to it. In the final against Indonesia, you're playing against the world number 1 and world number 2 pair come together. Now, Indonesia are essentially giants of men's doubles. The top 2 ranked players are Indonesian. You would have heard these terms, daddies and minions, in context of badminton men's doubles in the past, and they are both Indonesian players, Indonesian pairs. In another turn of fate, which played quite an important role in India's Thomas Cup victory, I might add that the draw also was favorable initially. India avoided teams like China and Japan in the draw. We had Germany and Chinese Taipei and another team, which I can't recall right now, but sorry. In the final, what happened is one pair from Minion was injured, and while both the daddies were available, Satyavan wasn't playing. So it was Asan and Kevin who were teaming up. Now, in that match, even though they're such high-rated players, they are not regular partners. Whereas Chirag and Satvik have really grown up together as partners. In the last 2-3 years, they've really melded into this one unit when they play badminton. and that was a big difference because they could really find the spots that maybe if the regular Indonesian pairs would have been there, they could not have. Satwik and Chirag are both extremely young and energetic players, and they have this little killer instinct to them, which I personally have found rare in Indian sport, where they did not think twice before like body smashing, and and that is more common in badminton than say in a tennis, where the points are still slower. But the aggression, that killer instinct was spot on. And these two are really good. Like Satvik, when he was partnering Ashwini Panappa in mixed doubles, he was a force to reckon with even then. He's a really, really good player, and he was finding the spots. He hit a tweener like close to match point. He was going for the angles, and Chirag was, with the smashes, the aggression. It was really like a full package come together. Luck and talent, hard work and technique. And now that might be a genuine first in Indian badminton. A doubles pair so young and fiery that they are not batting an eyelid while battling two of the most experienced and best players in the world right now. With 4 match points you mentioned, at that point the tie could go either way. Indonesia, 14 times champions. India, first time finalists. India has a 1-0 lead. India has a cushion in a way. But they didn't think of that. It was a proper do and die for them. And in the moment, it was their chemistry and their hunger that I believe is what overpowered two of the best doubles players in the world.
You briefly touched upon Pranay there, Xenia. I just want to talk about him, and he did not get a chance, obviously, which was good for India because India kind of swept the first 3 games. They did not get a chance to play in the final, but leading up to the finals, he played in the quarters and the semis and won the deciding 5th games or 5th matches. Right now, I read your piece, by the way, on ESPN India, which I'm going to recommend. You talk about how the BAI trusted him and gave him a bye in the trials when the selections were going on. So talk to us about that. What do you think made the BAI put the trust in him? Is he seen as like a big match player of sorts, or does his experience count a lot, or what do you think the thinking behind his bye during the trials was?
Yes, I mean, to give a little bit more context, the selection trials were controversially brought into the spotlight by Saina Nehwal when she said that the timing was wrong, and she was not given a bye even though her ranking of world number 23 is exactly that of Shrikant. Only the top 15 players were given a bye. But the Badminton Association of India decided to give Pranay the time to recover, also because he was suffering from some sort of injury, and also because his recent results, which included a final run at the Swiss Open, showed that he was in good enough form. But I personally believe that a big reason was, as you mentioned, Pranay is a big match player. And at the same time, Pranay is a very self-player. Like in the past, he has spoken about how mid-match he has choked in certain situations and not been able to complete a match. I think it was at the Commonwealth Games, the last Commonwealth Games, where he said that. But essentially, that he's an intelligent player. So there was this trust put on him and his experience at this level to sort of see India through. But the selection trials did show that the best sort of the Indian players, this is the best sort of set of Indian singles players who were there in the team. And if Pranay were to, like Sai Praneeth, for example, did not make it. He did not win the selection trials, and it was Priyanshu Rajawat who did win it. Now, that does not necessarily tell you that Sai Praneeth, who is an Olympian and is a former World Championship medalist, is not a good enough player. If anything, perhaps it just only talks about form. Now, if something similar could have happened with Pranay, but that trust came from his, which I believe is his, intelligence and his experience at this level. He's very aware of his limitations. He's very aware of his think that has translated into his performances. Now, if you see his CV, he doesn't have a world number 1 rank or like a big medal. But it's in the way he plays his badminton that there is a certain quality which you would trust in a team environment. And this is again my belief. I don't know whether that is the logic behind the AI. They said past performance, but I would say it's his personality and his game awareness that should have and rightly did earn him that respite, where he could rest his body completely. The second aspect of it is that as good a player Pranoy is, he's been extremely injury plagued. And any break from what is a very grueling tour of the BWF is helpful to the body, and that break might have actually helped him recharge. He missed the badminton Asia Championships right before the Uber Cup, so that injury definitely was there. And then he got injured mid-match during the quarterfinals as well against Malaysia. So in that sense, to have him fit and at 100% was more important than maybe the selection trial winning, to go by that method.
One more quick question, Zenia, and this comes from a place of ignorance. But for example, if a member was injured, right, like you said, this happened to Pranoy, what typically does happen in the Thomas Cup? Do you have a replacement, or do you just let that game go? Any thoughts on that?
So, if it was before the match, there was Priyanshu Rajawat, who was the fourth player in the squad. He was the one who won the selection trials.
Okay.
If it was a mid-match retirement, then there would be no option. And I don't.
Okay.
I mean, just to add, it's not like a place of ignorance or anything. These are questions that we are asking now, and it's because the team is performing well now. So, in a way, it's
Right.
positive that we ask that questions. It shows that India is doing well in that sport.
That is 100% true. But it also has to do with a little bit of our ignorance as well, because we don't follow as much as badminton as we should. But talk to us about the coaching staff, because usually in wins like this, the backroom staff tend to not get as much credit as they usually deserve. You spoke briefly about Matthias Doe, the Danish coach who came into the fore, and I know Pullela Gopichand is there. So who are all involved as far as the coaching staff goes?
So this time it was largely an all-Indian staff. There was Siadat who was coaching Shrikant and Pranoy mid-match from what I saw. Matthias Bo for the doubles pair. There was Vijaydeep Singh who was also in charge of doubles, and he's been in the system like Siadat for a long time. And for Laksh, his Korean coach was there. I do know his name, but I'm not sure I will be saying it right. So I'm probably not going to say it. But he had his own personal coach with him there as well, along with a lot of physios. For all the listeners, if you go to Kidambi Shrikant's social media, he has listed down all the support staff and backroom in his post after the victory. So we have all the names there.
From like a big picture point of view, we spoke about how this was India's first win in the Thomas Cup final. So do you think from like a legacy point of view, or just from in the future tournaments like these, do you think this is a good foundation to build on, or do you think this will continue to build on, or do you think this is just one of those tournaments where everything fell into place, all the dominoes fell to India, everybody was fit? I know you still need the rub of the green to be on your side, but do you think it was a case of everything coming together at the same time, or do you think that this is a start of great things to come, given how they played and the whole support system and everything like that?
I would say a bit of both. Yes, India has the three of their best singles players playing at the same time without injury, in good form at the same time, which is a great slice of luck. And at the same time, the rise of men's doubles badminton in Satvik and Chirag. But this will definitely have a domino effect in the other way. A lot more youngsters maybe want to play doubles now. They when they see Satvik and Chirag at that level. On the other hand, I would say that yes, this is the start of something, but the bench strength is something which we really need to focus on, and not just in terms of men's. If you see the women's team, it was just PV Sindhu, and the rest of the three players were very young and upcoming. So bench strength still has to be built, and this should be seen as a big inspiration for Indians to play regularly at that level.
Again, I had a question. I was trying to quickly follow up on what actually happened to the Uber Cup, because I'm interested to know. So you briefly mentioned that there was PV Sindhu and a relatively young team. So if you could maybe just give us like a overview of where the Indian team was and what we did in the Uber Cup, that would be great.
Really, upcoming pair of doubles. They were in the semi-finals of the All England and they won the selection trials as well. So they were in great form, but because of injury to Gayatri Gopichan, they couldn't play together. The singles was led by PV Sindhu and the three trials winners, which is Akarshi Kashyap, Asmita Chaliha, and Unnati Huda, who's only 14 years old. So we're in the right step when it comes to building bench strength. Saina Nehwal did not participate in selection trials because of the timing, and she needed time to recover physically after the European leg. And these three girls won. Now, Sindhu is a top 10 player, whereas these girls are still, ranked in the 50s and 60s, and Unnati is ranked much lower, but that's not the key point about her. It was because of the singles inexperience and the combination of injury to two very good doubles players, India could not reach beyond the quarterfinals. They have, as I said in the past, reached two semi-finals and have two bronze medals, which was a time where Indian women's badminton was doing really well with Sindhu, Saina, Ashwini Ponappa doing really well. This time, I would still say reaching the quarterfinals was good. They lost to Korea in the group stage, who were the eventual champions. So that sort of tells you.
The other achievement in the last week that took place, which was the tale of Nikhat Zareen. Nikhat Zareen winning the gold medal in the 52 kilograms category in the World Championships in Istanbul. She became the first Indian boxer since Mary Kom, that was 14 years ago, to win at the World Championships. So Xenia, I know she's from Guwahati. So Xenia, talk to us about Nikhat. Has she been on the circuit for some time now? Has she been in the background for a bit, or is this one of those things where everything fell in place for her, or was this just a slow build towards achieving this gold medal?
No, it was definitely it was definitely expected of her, I would say. If based on her caliber, she has been around for a while, but why you haven't heard of her much is because she is in the flyweight category, which is the same as Mary Kom. And in the past, there have been several unsavory situations where Mary Kom and Nikhat Zareen have been pitted against each other. To name a few, in 2019, ahead of the World Championship, the Boxing Federation of India said that there will be no trials for that category and Mary Kom can get a direct entry, which Nikhat felt was very unfair to her, and she raised her voice about this, which did not go very well with the administrators. In 2020 and later for the Olympics, again, the clash was between Mary Kom and Nikhat. And at that time, a trial was held and Mary Kom did win that trial. But there was this one acrimonious incident where Mary Kom very supposedly rhetorically asked, who is Nikhat Zareen? I've not heard of her, in context of the trial and in context of them being competitors for the same slot. Now, at Tokyo, it was Mary Kom, and after that, she's decided to not take part in the World Championship and the Asian Games, which are now cancelled, which then opened up the slot for Nikhat Zareen to take up that position. And in a very beautiful, poetic way, Mary Kom is the most successful boxer at the Boxing World Championship. She has 8 medals, 6 of them gold, and since 2001, even before women's boxing was an Olympic sport. So Nikhat is now the first woman since Mary Kom to become world champion in boxing, in the same category in which once she fought with Mary Kom off the ring to be able to play for India. And it does seem very poetic. Also, Nikhat had injury issues in about 2017-18, which is why, again, there was a setback to her career and you would not have heard much of her doing well at these big events.
And I also believe, finally, after this win, that Mary Kom had a tweet congratulating Nikhat, and it seems to end well. So that's good.
Yeah, about a day later, Mary Kom tweeted and the two of them met. I believe just this morning, Nikhat put up a picture of her and Mary Kom and talking about getting blessings from her idol, which is great. I mean, I'm glad both of them can put this incident behind her. And even Nikhat does not mention that incident much. She had written a letter to the ministry, etc., for a fair trial. And who knows? Maybe that is what spurred her to now becoming the world champion.
Yeah, for sure. It can definitely be, whenever the administrators get into this, it's always going to be a bit of a muddy ground. But in this case, it could be, who knows, if two athletes are in the same category competing for the same position, athletes are proud people. So I'm sure there was some ego things going around in the air. I'm pretty sure. Just a guess, but that's my reading of it. Having said that, looks like from here on, Azenia Nikhat is going to the Commonwealth Games after this. She's going to be in the 50 kilogram category and then on to the Paris Olympics. So is she going to be one of the favorites going into both of these tournaments?
So Commonwealth Games, we do not know whether she would be going, because the trials have so far only been held for the World Championship and the Asian Games, which is where Mary excluded herself from. The Commonwealth Game trials will be happening early June. After that, we will know who will be representing India. At the same time, I wonder whether Nikhat Zareen will be given the same concession Mary Kom once was, where you get an exemption from trial because of your past performance. So that is something we wait on. Although I must add that Lavlina, who won a bronze at the Tokyo Olympics, did take part in the trials and was there at the World Championship herself. She could not medal this time. And that is how sport is. Consistency is difficult in truth. So I don't think we should read too much into it. As for the Commonwealth Games, let's see how and when India's team is finally announced in boxing.
You don't have to answer this, but this conversation has triggered a thought. I'm so curious to find out how the administration backend works. Just because as an Indian, I do like sport, but I feel I'm so distant from the Indian sporting ecosystem that I rarely actually understand what goes on at the back end to get an athlete playing at a championship or at an event representing India. And someday maybe we could talk about that, because I find that very fascinating on how we have a system that's working and what the loopholes in the system are, what the good things about the system are, and so on. But that's just a thought.
On a small personal story, when I decided to become a sports journalist, I always thought it would be watching matches and interviewing players. But once you realize you are listening to court hearings like the Novak Djokovic in Australia case, or the BCCI Supreme Court case, or you're listening or you're trying to understand how selection trials work. Like for the badminton selection trials, there was this 10-page letter that I was trying to decode and write an explainer about how and why the selection trials are being held a certain way. Or if it is shooting, there was this one Olympic Committee report after the 2016 Olympic heartbreak about the changes that need to be made. So, being a sports journalist you have to be a bit of an all-rounder there. You need to understand court documents too sometimes.
For sure. I think for any job, I think it's the same for any profession. Any so-called quote-unquote good jobs, they're usually not as sexy as they sound. But I would still definitely love to be a sports journalist. But yeah, reading court documents, transcripts, sometimes reading medical reports and diagnoses of players.
Yeah,
it's like hunting around for like reports of some kind after a tough loss or something like that. It can be quite taxing and very tedious job sometimes.
Yeah, and it exposes a part of the system where there is a certain disillusionment, but there is so much going beyond the scenes that you're not. I would say you should be happy that you're able to enjoy Indian sport just from the front end without having to worry too much about the not so nice aspects. I think that's a great thing about being a sports fan. You can just enjoy the actual triumph and defeats.
I was just going to say, maybe someday we can sit down again with Xenia and have a decoding the sport ecosystem episode of trying to understand what goes on. But hey,
no, I haven't understood it fully myself. I haven't fully understood it myself to be able to decode it, but let's see.
Yeah. But I think, again, Zina, thank you so much for taking some time. But I think we should, before we close, I know you follow tennis, so give us some French Open predictions, Zina. What do you think? I know we're just in the end of the first round. I don't see a lot of upsets right now yet, neither in the men's or the women's side. But what are your predictions?
Oh, this might be one of the most easiest Grand Slams to predict the winner, but the most difficult to predict the finalists.
Yeah.
I should tweet this. But jokes apart, I would go with the two top seeds, Djokovic and Iga Swiatek are best placed to win this. On the other hand, I can't quite figure out who will be the finalists or even the semi-finalists, given how the draws are placed and given how unpredictable things seem right now. Ons Jabeur was supposed to be a very good pick for final. She lost in the first round. Rafael Nadal is probably not at his peak physical prowess, which does not mean we can rule him out, but which does mean that he's not as easy a favorite as he was in the past. I just want like a Grand Slam where there is so much drama happening that even though we knew the eventual winners, it'll still be fun.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Who are your picks?
I would, if Nadal is playing on clay, I'm always going to pick Nadal on clay. Women's side, I feel like anybody is going to win any given tournament. But you said Swiatek, so maybe that's probably going to happen. But women's side, I've stopped predicting. Unless Serena is playing on hard courts or grass, I'm not picking anybody else as far as women's singles go.
Absolutely. I don't think any of us can predict it anymore, even if we tried.
Yeah.
This was, but yeah, as she's the world number one, she's a former champion here and she's on a 29 match winning streak. So she has made it slightly easier this year, but I can't tell you who she's going to play in the final. It could be a qualifier at this stage, for all we know.
Yeah.
I wanted to get a few recommendations from Xenia to enrich the lives of our listeners. So,
Yeah,
Xenia,
Xenia, don't recommend your piece because I'm recommending your piece on ESPN India for badminton.
Okay, thank you. For Nikhat Zareen, there is a lovely profile done by Jonathan in Sportstar, the magazine. I would recommend that. For badminton, there are a couple of pieces. My former team at the field at scroll.in have done a great job covering Thomas Cup. And there is this piece which is about Satvik and Chirag, which has both statistics and quotes from Satvik's brother and a few of their peers to really understand how their rise is so crucial to Indian badminton and the Thomas Cup victory. So these two pieces I would say you should read to understand more about these two World Championship victories for India.
Awesome. Xenia, thank you again for coming on our little podcast and sharing your views and insights. We always learn so much from you. We did the same thing when we covered the Olympics with you. So thanks again for taking your time and really appreciate you coming on.
Not at all. It was absolutely my pleasure as we spoke about the team dynamics in a team sport in the same way. Discussing sport with fellow fans is what makes it better than covering it individually. So thank you so much for having me.
Right. Anika, let's talk about the Premier League. It all came down to the last game. Man City was... Liverpool was playing Wolverhampton Wanderers. Man City was playing Aston Villa. Going into the last week, Man City was ahead by 1 point, which meant that City had to win to basically seal the title. But if it was any other result, if it was a draw or a City loss, it meant that they were completely dependent on Liverpool going in. Liverpool was playing Wolverhampton Wanderers, so Man City couldn't afford to slip up. So kind of a very dramatic, well, not a kind of, a lot of deja vu to the 2012 season.
Oh, yeah. And it was, so let's start from there, right? So 2012, City clinch it 3-2 in the last, I think, 94th minute. And that's a shout out to our episode. I think we should, it may be a good time sometime in the future to put that recall and put that episode out, which we had recorded back in the day. But that being said, so I was watching, like you said, this game on two screens, and one was on mute and the other with commentary, so that, you know, the eye and the ears, absolute sensory overload that day, and I had a blast. But so coming to the Liverpool-Wolverhampton game, right? So I remember texting you briefly, I think it was in the early minutes of this game, because Wolves got in front, I think in the third minute, So Neto put a clinical finish there on an open net, obviously, and Liverpool seemed a little taken aback. But I had no doubts that they were going to come back, and it was a matter of time when Salah equalized in the 24th minute, and from then on,
Mane.
84th was Salah, right? You're right. So Sadio Mane equalized. And from that point onwards, I think by that point, if I'm not wrong, Aston Villa were already leading 1-0. And I had my doubts if this would go City's way. And I think I made that clear to you on text as well. So, go ahead.
So I deliberately didn't text with you a lot because I wanted to talk about the games today. But yes, as soon as Liverpool went up Liverpool went down in the 3rd minute. I was like, oh, okay, so this might be a little interesting. But as you said, it was only a matter of when and not if with Liverpool. They were always going to score. I think they were always going to win this match. I had no doubts at all that Liverpool was going to lose or anything like that.
Not for a second. Yep.
No, not for a second. So it was always Man City I was looking at based on just a track record. They had everything to lose. Remember, they just lost the Champions League in such brutal fashion against Madrid. They needed to win this to get something out of this season. They had more to lose. Liverpool was still in the hunt for the quadruple, right? So they still have the Champions League final. They have the Premier League still under grabs, and they have 2 more tournaments coming up. So they have all of this going on. So as soon as Liverpool went down, I knew they were going to come back, and Sadio Mane scored, and that was like as soon as they equalized, I knew they were winning it. And in the meantime, so this was the 24th minute. All the games were happening at the same time, right? So this was a weird day in terms of footballing style for these two teams, because what worked eventually for the underdogs, which were the Wolves and Aston Villa, was playing direct football. It was like goalkeeper to the striker. He heads it on, who plays it on to another guy running forward and scores. It was a really weird day that way. It was one of those days when most of the sophisticated tactics go out of the window.
Yeah, and that's what technically not a final, right? But the final day is all about it's about that final game, and when things like that come into play, there is so much you can do on the tactical front, but it's more about being there in that moment. And you're right, because I have nothing more to add.
So I was watching the Wolves highlights again, Liverpool Wolves highlights. Wolves had some good chances in the first half. They should have converted, and so did Aston Villa. They went up with the Matty Cash header. It was just normal cross. There was a great header, a great finish that set the cat among the pigeons for the City. Even after the Sadio Mane scored in the Liverpool's game, Wolverhampton Wanderers still had some chances. They had 2 good chances, but the luck was not with them. But going into the halftime, right? It was Liverpool 1.
I have a question for you, though, Gautam. So before the game was decided, whom were you rooting for, and why?
So this is an interesting question. So I was rooting. I was hoping a little bit that Man City would win, because I really, really felt bad for them, given how they lost against Real Madrid.
Sympathy win, yeah.
It was sympathy. The Liverpool team has a lot to play for, and they have the Champions League final, and this might still end up with only a 0 or 2 trophies, or who knows how they will end up in the season. But given how this Manchester City lost in the Champions League, I really felt bad for them. And also there's no secret, I love Kevin De Bruyne. It's at least for him, I wanted City to win, because he was such a sullen figure in the Champions League semi-final. He got subbed, they were ahead, and then Madrid came back and won. So it was weird. It was just a weird semi-final in the Champions League. So I was rooting for City. What about you?
Yeah, same here. I wanted City to win. A, for De Bruyne. B, I do like Pep Guardiola, ex-Barcelona manager. I always had a soft corner for him. But most importantly, I didn't want Liverpool to win the quadruple. So it was coming more from that side. And don't get me wrong, they have to win the Champions League. I want them to win the Champions League, but I did not want them to win the Premier League, and I was like hoping some other club would take it, and City was there, so yeah. Absolutely.
So yeah, going into the second half or at halftime, it was Liverpool 1, Wolverhampton Wanderers 1. So they were equal on points there. So Liverpool technically still trailing on goal difference because City was losing. So that meant live table reflected Man City at 90 points and Liverpool at 90 points, but City ahead with goal difference. So going into the second half, again, I was like, it is 1-1. Liverpool are going to score at some point. Even if it had to wait till the 65th, however long it was, I was sure Liverpool was going to score. So my big screen was on the City game. City still continued to look edgy, man. I mean, I can understand because they had to attack, but they were very vulnerable at the back, Aniket.
Oh yeah, and like you said, and you mentioned the early part, all it took was like one good ball that would just leave them hanging. And let's not forget, Aston Villa are pretty good, right? So they've had, well, not pretty good, but they've had a decent season. Obviously, it's Gerrard's debut in the Premier League as a manager, so his first season.
Yeah.
But hey, he had maybe some stake in this because he's an ex-Liverpool player as well, and I have no doubts that he wouldn't mind Liverpool winning if they could beat Manchester City too. So that was all. I did notice that a lot on social media. So there was this whole talk about how Gerrard would help Liverpool win the one title that he could not get while he was a player. So
I'm sure it was running in his mind, but that is probably not the primary thing running on his mind.
I'm for sure. I'm pretty sure it's not. At that point, you just care about getting through your game. I think it's it's definitely not on the top 3 priorities when you're playing a game in the Premier League, I believe.
Yeah. So I was talking about how playing direct was working just great for Aston Villa as well as the Wolves. So coming into the second half, there were Ollie Watkins, who's the striker for Villa. There was a long ball from the goal kick from the goalkeeper. Just gets through the Man City defense somehow. Ollie Watkins goes through straight in. It was him and the goalkeeper. I thought he was going to score because he beat the goalkeeper, right? He put the ball past the goalkeeper. It was going in. The ball kind of, I don't know if you saw the replay or not, and it spins away. It was headed to the goal and then it spun away. It was crazy. I thought that was 2-0 for sure.
Oh yeah, and at that point, I remember going like, oh, this game is done, because just from the fact that they were so vulnerable at the back, City, that it just felt like, okay, so with these guys, especially with Ollie Watkins, who's physical and fast, right?
Yeah. So
it's not like, and so remind me again, who was playing on the right back? Because it was not Kyle Walker.
It was John Stones.
Yep. So it was John Stones who was playing at the right back, and they did seem vulnerable. And in a matter of, I think, I don't remember exactly when Ollie Watkins thing happened, but around the 69th minute, Felipe Coutinho scores for Aston Villa. And exactly, and let me remind you, at this point, Liverpool is still 1-1. So at this point, I'm like, oh, this is sealed. Like, this is done. I mean, you think like, oh, maybe City will come back. I thought that, but I'm like, come on, let's be realistic. This is the final day. Never in my wildest dreams, I expected a comeback. And
yeah, but let's talk about the Coutinho goal though. It was again direct. Ollie Watkins gets the flick-on header. Coutinho goes through. I think he was up against Stones, or it might have been Fernandinho. I'm not exactly sure. But what a brilliant first touch, man! He just gets the ball, and on the first touch, cuts it to his right. Just has a very slight opening and just finishes. Such a great technical footballer Coutinho is. Again, a former Liverpool guy.
Yeah.
Who was part of the Gerrard squad, by the way, when they just missed out.
Yeah. And since you're talking about first touches, let's rewind back a little bit, and that pass from Thiago for the first goal that Sadio Mane scored. Back to that. Oh, that was fabulous. I mean, it was fantastic to see how that pass. It was some sense a blind pass too, right? But it just opened up everything, like the river. I mean, what the sea opens up for Moses. What is the famous
the parting of the Red Sea?
Parting of the Red Sea. Yeah. So it was like that, and the ball just threw, and Mane was 1-on-1. So it was pretty fantastic. So there was some great footballing we saw.
Yeah, so by the 69th minute, now we are at minute 69. Liverpool is still level with Wolves at 1-1. City is now in the doldrums, right? They're down 2-0. Now City technically still up, but again, you knew Liverpool was going to win that game. They were going to score. So they had to somehow come back from the hole here, but complete deja vu with 2012 again, Aniket, when City were down 2-1 against QPR. Remember, they equalized going into halftime in 2012, and then QPR gets a red card, but still go ahead in the second half. It was 2-1.
Yep.
So interestingly enough, so now we are about the 70th minute mark. Interestingly enough, it's now time for subs. Pep makes some substitutions. Ilkay Gundogan comes in for Bernardo Silva, Raheem Sterling comes in for Mahrez, and Zinchenko comes in for Fernandinho, which meant that John Stones came to the center and Zinchenko was able to play as the wing back essentially. Sometimes these subs work, sometimes these don't. It was a question of this time Guardiola had all of those three substitutions playing a part in the City's win.
Oh, exactly. And a shout out to Ilkay Gundogan, who has had, I think, a great season this time for Manchester City. Again, I think is he the top scorer? I think he's the top scorer for City in terms of goals, right?
So.
Yeah. So he's had a fantastic season, and I mean, we always blame a manager when things go wrong. I put my hand up when we spoke about how Guardiola pulled De Bruyne out from the Champions League and how he got tactics wrong. It is the time when you say, okay, it was a masterclass or a brilliant tactical move. But the bottom line is, we talk about this only when things work out or don't work out, right? So, and this is one of those classic cases where it actually worked out exactly as planned.
Only and immediately too.
Exactly. And only Pep can tell us if this is exactly what is on his mind. I hope he speaks to us someday, if you're listening, Pep.
Pep. Yeah, if you're listening to us.
So, but no, you're right. And I think the first goal comes 76th minute from Ilkay Gundogan, who was what we call an impact sub in this particular game.
Yeah, 76th minute. Sterling again, one of the other subs, cuts to the right and crosses the ball, and quite a great header from Gundogan. So he makes it 2-1. 76th minute, City are still trailing, but the hope is back. Everybody's up now. Pep in the press conference said there's no answer to some of these questions. He just used the M word again. He said it's just momentum. So I was like, okay, if he says it's momentum, there is something to it. Who are we to dispute his argument, right? Now 76th minute, Sterling scores. 78th minute, Zinchenko, who is the other substitution, cuts in from the left. Instead of crossing the ball directly into the box, he passes to Rodri, who's waiting at the end of the box. This was like a classic Frank Lampard, Paul Scholes kind of goal, where the midfielders are just waiting at the end of the box for them to get the ball and somehow finish it. But contrary to how Lampard or Scholes would have finished, he placed it at the bottom of the net wonderfully. What a goal! What a finish! He passed it into the goal. It was not a shot.
Right? So if you're playing FIFA, it's just finesse from outside the D. So it was fantastic, and and it was neat. Actually, when I saw the replay, I was surprised the keeper didn't get to it. But then, it was a very well placed shot right at the bottom corner. So
he was also a little blinded by the Villa defender too. So I'm sure he saw the ball very late. Right. Also, but wonderful finish. But at this point, it was 78th minute, right? So we have 2 goals in 2 minutes or 2 goals in 3 minutes. The momentum is completely now shifted to City. They have 13 minutes to go or 12 minutes to go plus extra time, added time. So now there is a legitimate chance. So now I'm sitting on my I kind of sat up now, right? So by the way, Liverpool was still attacking on the other end. Mane came on. Mane, remember, did not even start the game. So Mane came on at around the 60th minute or the 57th minute mark, I think.
You mean Saleh? Salah.
Oh, sorry, Salah. Yeah, I
yeah.
did the same mistake again. Salah came on at the 56th, 57th minute. They continued to attack, but with little luck. But City came back. 2-2. It is 2-2, and then 81st minute, De Bruyne just steals a ball, cuts into the box. I don't know if he saw Gundogan or not, if he just blindly made a pass across goal. But man, what a cross for Gundogan's tap in. Just it was almost as if he was on autopilot.
Yeah, and just given the season City have had and my love for De Bruyne, I think it couldn't have been a better end to this season with De Bruyne assisting a goal. So
the Villa defender was little sleeping. Was caught little sleeping. So De Bruyne was just quick to act. Was just faster than him. Stole the ball, cut into the box, and just the cross. I don't know how he put it perfect. It was just far away from the goalkeeper for him to intercept, and it was just perfect for Gundogan, who was waiting in the far post. It's just, and of course, now the whole stadium is just shaking, right? How I realize when it is really insane in the stadium, the atmosphere is when the camera actually shakes. I think I've said this earlier also. You can see the camera actually shaking because it is so loud and everybody is so jumping for joy, I think. I don't know what it is, but the camera always shakes a little bit when it's truly, truly loud.
Yeah, and it was, let me tell you, so I had neutrals in my house watching the game, right? So my wife and a friend were also watching the game. Not the most enthusiastic people about sport, but boy, were they having a blast. And because they were seeing this, and I was just trying to give them some context of what's happening. And when Man City were 2-2, that's it. Everyone was just looking at their TV. There was absolute radio silence. No one's talking and just wondering what's going to happen next. And then even at our place, the place just erupted when the third goal was scored. So it was something. And I love that about sport.
6.5 minutes, I think, is when City's comeback was 3 goals in 6.5 minutes. That meant City were up 3-2. Now they were sitting at 93 and comfortable, right? But in the meantime, this is in the 81st minute. 2 or 3 minutes later, in the 84th minute, Salah scored for Liverpool finally. So it made 2-1. The news was not there yet that City had come back and they're up by a goal. So Salah was really celebrating. All of Liverpool, Anfield was really celebrating. And I saw this in one of the Instagram accounts. Somebody shared it. So there was Salah scores. Everybody celebrates somewhere near the corner flag, and then players are like jumping for joy and fist pumping the crowd and all of that. And then the crowd spectators actually let the team know. He goes, no, they're pointing two fingers and says 3-2 over there. It's 3-2 over there, and like everybody then like settles down a little bit, knowing that fully knowing that things were out of their control at that point.
Absolutely. And this was another thing I noticed, right? So back in the day, there used to be transistors, folks listening to the other game, and now you could see that the spectators were on their mobile phones, like actually.
But did you see that one guy though, Aniket? Did you see that one guy? I don't know if you caught it or not. There was this one guy who actually had a legitimate transistor who was listening to. He had this old school, like a black box with an antenna on. It was so funny. He was actually listening to the commentary on like a transistor.
Fantastic. So, but yeah, this was modern football where the audience are in the game, but also closely monitoring what's happening at the other end. And I think the camera kept panning to this because you could see the spectators a lot of times, just because, and especially these two games were like so close, going up and down. It was exciting.
That's the beauty of live sport. Can't beat live sport at all. So once City was up 3-2, things were in control at the Etihad. I think everybody then settled down a little bit. It was not as dramatic as 2012, but the scoreline was still 3-2. It was still an exciting game. City was still down and had to come back, so it was great. Comeback wins are always huge, and it just gives that extra layer to the celebrations. But yeah, once they were up 3-2, City were firmly in control at that point. They played the classic game of take the ball to the corner flag, just keep the ball there, kick it against Villa's defenders, throw it in. They just, I think it probably spent 5 minutes over there in the corner flag.
Oh yeah, and I did. I think they did what they had to. They were at home. They were at home.
It was not time wasting or anything like that. They were playing legitimately. I had no gripes with that at all.
They did what they had to. I must tell you though that I was a little skeptical about not the way they were playing, but I was like, when teams tend to do this, right, there is always that chance that complacency sets in and you can let something go. And I'm always worried about time wasting, what it's called, right?
Yeah.
So
shithousery, as the British people call it.
Yeah, so I was skeptical, but hey, they saw it through, and after that it was crazy scenes.
Yeah, but did you feel like they wasted time like illegitimately, or do you think they did it the right way?
No, I think it was fine. Yeah, there was nothing. The only thing, the perspective I said it from is that when teams get into that zone of like, we just have to see the game through. Mistakes happen, like, and we've seen it. So I was saying it from that perspective. But yeah, I had no qualms with what they did. Though I must tell you, I think this is a subtle difference between. So I follow La Liga as much as I can, and I notice a subtle difference that, barring this game, because this game is like a final, it's an outlier. It's not a good data point, but you see that a lot of Premier League teams in the final minutes take the ball to this corner flag, and they're doing this. What I noticed in La Liga is that it is not the case. Teams are still like, even 89 minutes, they're like all out running on the flank to go and try and score a goal. So
except for Atletico Madrid.
For sure, yeah, you said that right. So, but yeah, I just noticed this thing, and I thought, it was interesting.
Yeah, I mean that's the way. I mean, City, it's not the first time City have done it. They've always
for sure. And again, for the record, like, I have no qualms, especially on the final. Like, I would want my team to only do that, to see the game through. But no.
Also, the roller coaster of emotions, right? People are fatigued. It's such an emotional high. It wears down on you. You don't have anything in you to again attack and move forward. So they played it safe.
And
no qualms.
Let's not forget the previous game City played was West Ham, right? Where they were down 2-0. So
and they came back and drew. Yeah,
they came back and drew. So. Obviously, they're not playing Champions League, but they've not had the best momentum towards this final, right? Because of the events that played out before. So I think it would have been much neater if they would have just finished the West Ham game, and it would have been more comfortable. But hey, they, like Pep said, they always make it hard for themselves. So.
True. And then the substitutions again. The Pep took out De Bruyne in the Champions League semi-final a little earlier than expected. Now, he did not make any such mistake this time, and it proved to be the right thing to do because that's why you keep players like De Bruyne on the field at all times. He might have an average game, he might have a below average game, he might be losing balls here and there, but all it takes is one bit of magic, right? One great pass or one great finish or just one great skill to get your team ahead or score a goal. So that's why you keep players like De Bruyne always on the field.
Yeah, for sure, right? And I think that was a lesson learned the hard way, rather unfortunately though, because once that, again, we go back to the Champions League game, but once that De Bruyne substitution happened, there was almost no one left to like really propel the team, and we spoke about it in a previous episode. There was a lack of leadership there, and De Bruyne gave them that final assist. So he's a phenomenal player. I really, really enjoy watching him.
Guy.
I think he can do anything. He has the range of passing. He has the range of shooting. He's decently quick. He's good with the ball at his feet. So
unselfish,
and it's one of these interviews that I saw this back in the day, 4 years back or something, but if I remember correctly, he does say that he enjoys assisting more than scoring actually. So and I'm not surprised because his game is like that.
All right, I just hope Belgium win the World Cup at some point in his lifetime, in his career lifetime. We'll see. So where does this put Man City in the Premier League pantheon? Now, Man City has won 4 titles in the last 5 years, so they're by far. I know we have Liverpool in the last 5 years as well, but the record speaks for itself. City has won 4 in the last 5 years. They are only second to Manchester United to have more Premier League titles than anybody else, which is a little unfair in my view, because Premier League only started 91-92 season around that time, so it's a little unfair on the other teams who won earlier, like Liverpool. So I don't take the Premier League stats too seriously because they are fairly recent, but still, if you just look at the recent track record, City has been the team to beat, even with Liverpool's superior development. Well, not superior development, but Liverpool's charge as well.
Absolutely, and I think people don't. I don't say don't understand, but I think overlook the fact that this is actually one of the toughest leagues in the world right now. Right? Back in the day, I would have maybe even indulged in a debate saying, there are other leagues, but at least for the last 2-3 years that we've seen, especially this year, this is clearly one of the most competitive leagues. Clearly, from the standpoint of managers, I think some of the finest managers in the world are right now in this league. You have some of the best players who are in this league. So it is a competitive league. It is an excruciating league. And one thing that goes is, they still don't have a winter break. So it gets pretty crazy. And I'd recommend anyone who's not aware of how grueling this gets, go and watch any of the All In or Nothing seasons. And typically winter, Christmas time is a jam-packed season, and everyone's like, just playing recovering mode. So yeah, and it is not easy given the competition. So yeah, you can't take anything away. Winning 4 times out of 5 is a deal. Pep has shown he can win leagues now. I think he's gone and won leagues in every league that he's managed in. What eludes him is the mythical Champions League that he's not got after leaving Barcelona. So yeah,
that is probably his one and only aim at this point with City. But yes, you are absolutely right. City had to, because it is such a tough league. City were up by like 8 points at one point, 8 or 9 points. So they were clearly ahead. But given how good the Premier League is and how good the other teams are, especially Liverpool, there was invariably going to be a late run from the other teams. And Liverpool did make that run. So City had to hold on, which is where their resiliency came to the fore. So 4 titles in 5 years. I'm sure they have more titles in their bag coming up. As long as Pep is there, they'll continue to be good. Everybody's invested in it. I'm sure Pep will continue to focus on the Champions League. We'll see what happens next year, but it's not going to happen this year for Champions League, but a well-deserved title in the end. Now,
I do want to add, though, Gautam, that mid-season, a lot of questions did come to the forefront about Man City because they had no out-and-out striker, no number 10, and goals just didn't seem to be coming at one point, right? So there was another reason all these questions were being asked of how would Pep actually play. And given all these challenges they had, it's a well-deserved title. But let's not take anything away from Liverpool. Like, they are a fantastic team, and I think on any other day they would be worthy winners. And they even showed it the way they handled it after. They did everything they could from their end, and it was one of those things which is just not meant to be, because it was beyond their control at this point. It was to draw a parallel, something like Felipe Massa in Interlagos when Hamilton won. Right, you do everything from your end, and then you just hope for the best. And it was not one of their days. Yeah.
Absolutely, and they just did that, and they still have a lot to play for this season. So I'm sure they'll win some kind of silverware. They're going into the Champions League. You can't count Real Madrid out, but they're going in as Liverpool is going in as the favorites for sure.
I want them to win. Liverpool, please, please, Liverpool
don't want
win.
Madrid to win. They've won enough.
No, they've had enough for this season. They've hammered us by how many points they wanted to. It's good to know, but I really hope Liverpool go and win.
By the way, the Champions League final is this weekend on the 28th. We are going to have just a special episode on the Champions League. Our reaction maybe sometime next week. We'll probably record a small a short episode of. We'll see how long that goes, but we're going to have a quick recap of the Champions League final next week. Anything more to add, Aniket, about the Liverpool City matches? Yeah, go ahead.
Not about the Liverpool City. I think we've spoken enough about that. But if you're done with that, I did want to talk about Everton and their staying in the Premier League. So I thought that was
It was looking bleak there for a moment, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was. It was looking. Oh my God, it was looking terrible. To be very honest with you, but again, hey, what a game! What a comeback, and this is what sport is about. Because Crystal Palace at one point seemed to be cruising, like they were comfortable. So for the viewers who don't know, we're talking about Everton's 3-2 comeback from a 2-0 deficit that they were in.
And this was not on the last day. It was the penultimate game.
Yeah. So it was the penultimate game, and Everton had to so they were basically battling for relegation, which is something in itself when you talk about Everton and relegation in one line.
Yeah.
But hey, and they had Frank Lampard as their manager, who has now successfully evaded relegation for a club. So yeah, and I thought it was a great game. They showed character. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but yeah.
No, just usually, Everton is a classic mid-table team, right? They usually finish 8th, 9th, and they're happy. Then they're like always grumpy about it. They're like, okay, 8th, 9th, we are done. But this is, ironically, this is the time when everybody's celebrating because Everton finished 16th. Now, they were literally in the bottom 3 for some time. They had a string of bad losses. Things were looking down. They had a really good team. They have but just the wins eluded them. Even the draws eluded them. They just kept losing. So it was a great comeback. They were playing I believe they were playing at Goodison Park. So there was the whole pitch invasion right after they came back
the
with
third
two goals
which
down.
is sad to see.
Yeah. And then, did you see the footage of Patrick Vieira hitting somebody?
So, no, really? No, I did not.
There was this pitch invasion. There's obviously at the end of the game, so every fan started swarming onto the pitch. Vieira was just leaving the stadium to the dressing rooms, and obviously there are these jackass fans who are trying to taunt him and do all kinds of stuff. Crystal Palace just lost. And Patrick Vieira, does not take any crap. So they're taunting, and then all of a sudden he turns around and just grabs hold of this guy and just, I think, kicks him with his leg or something. So it is not a good look for everybody, but I understood where Vieira came from.
This reminds me, so this happened in one of the games too. Was it Brentford? The goalkeeper was actually assaulted by the fans. I forget the team. Maybe it was
even it was Villa too. The City, when City fans rushed onto the field, the Villa's goalkeeper got attacked as well.
Right.
Got hit in the head.
So it was sad to see that from fans. It's always disappointing, not respecting the opponent. But I hope things change. It's sad. I don't know. I have nothing more to say. It's just sad. That's it.
So so the 4 teams qualifying for the Champions League. So the Tottenham Hotspur side made it to the top 4. So that means they get automatic qualification for the Champions League. Chelsea finished 3rd. So Chelsea's finishing 3rd was always going to be sure anyway, because they were in a decent spot. Arsenal promising on one day, not promising at all on the other day.
Classic Arsenal. So
they finished 5th. Man United, I'm surprised they finished 6th actually. They should have been even further down than that based on how they played. So I probably watched like 30 seconds of the United Crystal Palace game on the last week just to see how it was. I saw it was about the 10-minute mark. I saw that they were goal down. I was like, okay, that's done. They're not winning this game. There's no way. And then I flipped it back to the Liverpool game. So Eric Ten Hag took charge. So we'll see where that takes us. But quite another dramatic EPL season in the books, Aniket.
Yeah, and just to round it off, so we won't be seeing Burnley, Watford, and Norwich City next year, right? So they've been relegated. So it was sad scenes at Turf Moor. Leeds United somehow managed to stay
Just
afloat.
held on.
So
Just held on.
for
Yeah.
dear life. So we're going to see them, which is good. I like Leeds. I think they're an exciting team. But yeah, and do you know who's promoted next year? Who are the?
I think the Champions League. The Championship. There's the Championship playoff game still to go.
I think Fulham. Yeah, Fulham have got automatic. Fulham and Bournemouth have got automatic qualification, I think.
Okay.
And Nottingham Forest and Huddersfield would be involved in the playoff with the other teams.
Yeah.
So
that's all right. We'll probably cover them in the next season. That's okay.
Yeah, it's good to see. I always get excited to see which team is coming into the Premier League because, hey, you'll have some teams that really surprise you. Like Brentford did this year, by the way. They were like, very...
Like Stoke did all those like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But
so
anyway, do you anything else to add before we move on?
Nothing more, Gautam. That's it. Just one final thing I wanted to say. Everton's credit I would give to Jordan Pickford, who did some fantastic goalkeeping this year. Even in the Crystal Palace game, I think he had some brilliant saves who basically kept them in the Premier League. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, he had a great game. I don't really value him as a good goalkeeper just because I feel like he's a little jumpy. It doesn't look settled to me at all times. He's always a little on the edge, I think so. But yeah, total credit to him. I think with that being said, Aniket, we should move on to with Formula 1. We'll end with Formula 1, but I know you wanted to talk a little bit about the French Open that's been going on.
Yeah, so basically just the qualifiers and the first round run. I typically get into the action when it's like the quarters are closer or the round of 16s, right?
Yeah.
So, but hey, Nadal is on his way. So is Djokovic. They've started their, they started their onset towards the journey towards the Roland Garros final. Let's see where they end up.
Yeah.
But those two boats are on their way. And yeah, I did... yeah, that's about it at this point. I don't know what more to say because I've not been following every game. And I just realized today while going through this course, there's just so many qualifiers. So do you typically watch all these qualifiers? Are they even live?
I do not.
Okay. Because, but by the way, there were a couple of Indian athletes who were in the French Open qualifiers. So we know Yuki Bamri was there, who unfortunately did not win his first match. I think he lost in straight sets.
Yeah.
And then there was, I forget, Ramkumar Ramanathan, who basically won his first game, but I think that's where it stopped again. So it's a tough world. I mean, I've realized how competitive world tennis is. So it's not easy to, just show up and be a part of a Grand Slam, which is why I feel that women's tennis is somewhat exciting. Because every time I open, I'm like, oh, I don't know most of these folks. And then suddenly the round of 16, you see someone who's really promising you, who's there to win, which is good for the sport, right? That's what you want. You want more people coming in and winning. So, yeah, the men's side of the sport is right now being dominated by 3 legends. I'm saying 3, even though Federer is not really there playing, but yeah.
But yeah, more to come on the French Open for sure when we talk to Abhijit later on once the tournament concludes.
Let's cut it short. Let's get to Formula 1, Gautam. So you said sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so Formula 1. Let's talk about Formula 1. We had the Spanish Grand Prix. As I said, it was perfect timing in India. It was at 6:30 p.m. I was nice. I had a nice afternoon nap. I got up. It was great. It was just perfect timing. But I think we should get Lippy, who's producing this podcast, on to a conversation. I know she is a Formula 1 fan as well. So Lippy, if you want to unmute yourself, we going into the race. It was Charles Leclerc who was on pole, right? So he was on pole. He was cruising. He was comfortable until things went wrong. Lippy, what did you make of the race?
So the race was quite. I think even the first 15 minutes of the race was like. I think it was like a Marvel movie. Like you don't want to miss it because you not understand what's going on. And I think so. I think Hamilton fans were initially in the 5 minutes race already like, okay, it's not gonna happen again, and he's not gonna. But I think he was really good. I mean, he performed really well, and I guess Mercedes is coming back, and Charles was leading like with 30 seconds gap, and that was huge. And then, even after pit, he was like 12 to 15 seconds gap, and it was great. But I think it was really heartbreaking to see his power, lose power of the car. And I mean, and this is the second time this has happened with him. So it was, I think, and because of that, his whole, championship score got really screwed up. But I think I was really heartbroken for his car. Yeah, I was.
Me too. So, but yeah, it's actually a fantastic point you brought up, Lippy, because Hamilton, I think early on had a crash with Magnussen and he fell all the way back to like 19. And then I think he finally
I
finished.
thought he practically gave up too.
Yeah,
yeah.
I would rather save the engine if I were you guys. Yeah.
I would save this engine, guys, if I was you. Sorry.
Luce, we still think we can achieve points here today, so P8 may be better.
Yeah, and this is actually classic Hamilton. I don't remember now, but I think 2 seasons back, even in the German Grand Prix, which is home for Mercedes, so Bottas crashed out and Hamilton had a really bad, and so he goes to the radio saying, "Hey, I want to retire the car," but Toto Wolff was like, "Oh no, you got to race," and somehow he salvages, I think, 1 point. Yeah, and they interviewed him later and he says, I'm a sore loser, like I don't like driving knowing that I can't get something. But hey, it was a brilliant drive, to come from 19 to I think finally P6, I guess P5. Okay, wow. So, and that was that. And Carlos Sainz, who was P2, fell to, he had I think he fell to P5, P6, I think, or P4. So
he was in P4.
Yeah. So it was an interesting race.
So Lippy said it was kind of heartbreaking to see Charles Leclerc retire. But Lippy, you are also heartbroken for Sergio Perez?
Oh, I am. I mean, I genuinely think he's a really, really good driver. And I just don't think that he should have I think he could have actually, he was on the podium, but I think he could have won also had he not given Verstappen the way. And I don't know how many Verstappen fans are listening to it and if I get hate from them. But yeah, I do think that he could have done better because had he not taken over. And I forgot, I think a lot of credit goes to Russell also. Russell was great in the race. He was amazing. And and it's not just like, I guess the current car works for Russell somehow. It's amazing how he has been throughout I think he's the only racer to finish every race, I think, this season.
So consistent.
Yeah. And I think so the thing was when I was watching the race, and I think I stopped looking at Hamilton once he went to like 19. So I was like, okay, that's done now. And especially when he also said that, okay, let's just save the engine. And at that point of time, I think Russell, and after that, Russell and Verstappen for fighting for second and third. And it was going on great. And I think the whole thing took everyone's attention that no one looked that Hamilton climbed up to, like P4.
Yeah.
It was like Achanak, like suddenly I just saw and he's at like P7. And I was like, okay, when did that happen? Because the whole time everyone just watching Russell and Verstappen. And I think that's the thing, like, had Checo not offered to take over Russell, because Verstappen was clearly not able to. He was on soft tires and it was very difficult for him to complete 20 laps at that point of time on soft tires, and he had to take a pit. But with like so less distance, I think he couldn't afford to take a pit at that point of time, and clearly he had issues with his DRS. So, but I think Verstappen going into the gravel made my race. I was really happy about it, kind of. So yeah, and I think Carlos is having a really bad year. I mean, I feel bad. It was his home ground. He should have kind of, I guess, won. But I really hope that Charles wins the next one since it's his home ground. So I'm hoping something happens for him so that he's back on top.
Yeah, because last year Monaco was extremely sad for Charles. He was again on P1 and then he had that whole gearbox failure accident and it was rather sad.
What was up with the DRS, Aniket?
What is up with the DRS?
For Max, it was not opening up, right?
Yeah, his DRS just apparently failed. So, and it's good that you bring this up because my recommendation today is related to the DRS system. But the fin that actually opens when you press a button in the DRS, it just refused to open a couple of times, and he goes crazy on the radio saying, oh, come on guys, we can't make DRS work. So I think that was a very interesting, the typical agitated and frustrated Max was on the radio shouting about how we cannot make DRS work. And to Lippy's point, actually, maybe if we can get that in, because Sergio Perez, after the race was finished, when his team said, good job, Checo, he was like, it was good team result, but we need to talk. So it shows that clearly he played one for the team, but he was not the happiest to do that.
Great result, that one. Be charged on. Thank you for everything in that race.
I'm happy for the team. But we need to speak later.
Yep.
Well done, Checo. Thank you for that drive today. It was a very, very strong drive again from you. So thank you for playing the team game as well. Well done.
Yeah. No worries. We'll speak later, mate.
It turned out the 3-stop was the better option. So I think we just run out of tyres at the end there.
Yeah.
See, that's the weird thing about, not the weird thing, but that's how it works, I guess. There is a definite hierarchy within the team. There is a definite number one and number two, especially with the bigger teams. So in this case, it is going to be Leclerc who's going to be the first number one on Ferrari. It's going to be Hamilton. It's going to be Verstappen.
It's not going to be Hamilton. Because George Russell has really thrown a spanner into all those workings. But
well, yeah, it's not this year because they're not. I don't think they're even in contention. But moving forward, I'm sure Hamilton still will have the number one choice. Or he'll still be the number one preference
for sure.
I do think Russell will make a good successor to Hamilton, though.
100%.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's good. I mean, you can see that.
Yeah.
So things are now. The tide is now slowly turning towards Red Bull. Max Verstappen is now sitting on top of the driver standings, 110 points. Charles Leclerc is 6 points behind him, 104. In the constructors, Red Bull has taken the lead with 195 points. Ferrari is at 169. The first 3 or 4 races, it was looking really good for Ferrari. Now that Red Bull has finished 1-2 and Max has gotten some wins under his belt, Lippy, do you think Red Bull is still ahead of this race, or do you think Ferrari is going to come back?
I do think Ferrari will come back. I genuinely feel that it's Ferrari's year this year, I guess. I'm really hoping, by the way. But yeah. I think it's more biased.
Yeah. With the new design and stuff, I think Ferrari has a better car this year. But Red Bull is still in the figuring out stages of the car design. They're still having some power issues here and there. The DRS stuff was weird. But Aniket, do you think? I still think Ferrari has a superior car for now.
So you're right, actually. So Ferrari has got their downforce and stuff sorted out. Red Bull is clearly good at top speed, so there's no catching them. But I'm kind of with Lippy. My heart wants Ferrari to win. Mine says it's going to be Red Bull. Just because Red Bull is such a fantastic team. So if you think about it, the strategy, the calls they make, even last year, this time, the 3-stop for Verstappen to get him on a soft tire was a brilliant call. Last year, I think in the final for the qualifiers, I think they used Checo to give him a tow. And without Checo, basically, Max wouldn't have been anywhere, Checo defending against Hamilton. So all that stuff. So they really throw a spanner into the works. And I think they're very good as a team, tactically, strategically. So beating them would be tough. But, I would really hope it's the red car this year.
Yeah, and I think for Ferrari to, like you said, Red Bull is a great team, and I think right now with Sainz not being like in his form, I think Ferrari is suffering because of that. Because I mean, Charles is not getting that support from his teammate that Verstappen is getting from Checo. So yeah, I guess that is there.
Yeah, for sure, because Sainz actually went into the gravel too, right? And he dropped places. So, and I don't know, I mean, a controversial comment, but I'm not the biggest fan of Mattia Binotto. I don't know what he's doing, or I just don't listen enough for him to actually understand how his mind works. But yeah, because Red Bull, even though they didn't have a car earlier on last year, they really, did tactics. They bring everything to the game. Whereas Ferrari right now seems to be extremely reliant on their car and their drivers performing, which is good, but that's not the whole. Because Formula One is a lot about strategy, as we've discussed.
Exactly. It's not just the race or the drivers itself. It is also what happens in the paddock, what happens with the car, what happens with the pit stops. When the pit stops actually do, there's the whole undercut thing that is still I'm trying to understand properly. So there's a lot of strategy going behind. So it's going to be a good season. It's not going to be Mercedes in the race, but we'll have Red Bull and Ferrari for sure locking horns. So we'll hope for a new winner. I really don't have a dog in this fight, but I hope for sake of Lippi and also Aniket that Leclerc somehow goes ahead and wins the championship. But we'll see what happens. But I think we should call it there, Aniket. We should end this episode. So let's go ahead with some recommendations.
All right, Gautam. So what would you recommend to enrich the lives of our listeners?
Okay, so the first recommendation I have is a podcast called ESPN Daily. So ESPN has a daily podcast every morning, like a 20 to 25 minute podcast. In one of their new pod, they have one every day. So I'm going to link the episode to the show notes. It's about this former general manager of the NBA team called the Minnesota Timberwolves. His name is Sachin Gupta. He is first generation Indian American who made it to the front offices of the NBA for an NBA team. He talks about how he was at MIT. He also talks about the immigrant experience. He also talks about how Indians or just Asians in general are looked at from outside, and how there are literally so few of them in the sporting world, so to speak. You see very, very few of them in the sports media space as well as in the actual sporting space itself in America. So it talks about the Indian American experience and how he came up with the trade machine that everybody uses these days, and all that good stuff. So just check that out. It's called Sachin Gupta's Groundbreaking NBA Journey on the ESPN Daily Podcast. And then I'm going to recommend Zenia's piece on ESPN India discussing where she talks about India's Thomas Cup win. It's called Thomas Cup Win, Teamwork, Planning and a Lot of Mental Strength Took India to the Top. It's a really good piece. She actually has a short profile on all the players who participated in the Thomas Cup win for India. So do check that out.
Fantastic. So my recommendations are, one is related to the DRS system in Formula One. So as always, the Formula One channel has come up with a very nice, concise explainer of what the DRS is, and basically a demo in sorts. So I would recommend the listeners to watch it's a short video. I think it's under 10 minutes. So you can go and check it out to learn more about the DRS. And it will also give you ideas to the questions you asked, Gautam, as what actually happened, why Max's DRS didn't work. So the insights there. The second recommendation is related to badminton. So it's just an article. I forget it's by Anish Anand in ESPN. So it's India's win at the Thomas Cup and 5 jaw-dropping moments from the final. So basically talks about a lot about Lakshya Sen's match, which was actually a fantastic game because he comes from the back, and then it also talks about the doubles game And then I think he also refers to Kidambi Shrikant's game there as well. So it's just a collection of the interesting moments that actually turned the table for Team India, right? Because this, again, let's not forget, Thomas Cup is a team sport, somewhat like the Davis Cup, but different because it's for badminton. And it was Team India's win. So more part of that. And the third one is a callback on a recommendation I did last episode or the one previous, but it's basically on Pulela Gopichand, because I thought this was an apt time to call out just for everything that he's done for badminton in India. I think in time, history will remember him as a pivotal figure, not only as a player and all England champion for India after Prakash Padukone, but also a guy who's churned out some of the finest badminton players who've come out in this age. So we see he somehow has a hand to do with almost every young player. At some point has, gone through his academy, which is in Gachibowli, Hyderabad. So yeah, these three. So his book is my recommendation. It's called Shuttler's Flick. It's with I think Priya Kumar. It's with Pulel Gopichand and Priya Kumar. So I would recommend the readers to read that, because it just gives you slightly preachy in terms of how it's written, tells you what to do in life, how to live the ideal life, but nevertheless you learn a lot about Gopichand, his struggles, and his character, which is phenomenal.
Awesome. I think this is also a time where we have to plug Newslaundry. Please go to newslaundry.com, hit that subscribe button. There are a couple of Newslaundry Sena projects out there. I think a couple of reports, I think. Do check those out. Please top those up. We also have a slew of podcasts. We have NL Hafta, NL Chacha, we have YouTube content, Tippani, we have Nuisance. I'm sure I'm missing a lot of other stuff. We also have great ground reports as well. So please go to newslaundry.com. Please hit the subscribe button. You can start subscribing from as low as I think 300 rupees or so. So it's please go ahead. You're seeing all of the stuff going around, all of the bile going around in all of the TV news channels these days. So if you're looking for good honest journalism, please go to newslaundry.com and hit that subscribe button.
Yeah, and like Gautam said, so one of the NL Sena project is a yogi who has it all, and then there is the other one. God, I forget, but one is the yogi who has it all. But the larger point being, guys, we are a part of a democracy, and it is our job to keep democracy, and the way you do it is through supporting independent media. So pay to keep news free, subscribe to Newslaundry, and you can also write to us, because like Gautam already alluded to, we're looking for people to talk about basketball, the sporting ecosystem in general, and we're hoping to get some exciting guests for you guys. So if you have recommendations on who you would like to listen to, please write to us at the podcast letters that are there in the drop down menu. And until next time, we'll leave you with an audio.
Yep, and as always, thanks to producer Lippy for producing this podcast, and also for coming on to talk Formula 1. So that was great. So
some wonderful insights there. Yep.
Yeah. So thank you, Lippy, and till next time, I hope all of you stay safe and have a wonderful few days coming up. Until next time, thank you.
All the Newslaundry podcasts are available on Stitcher, iTunes, and any other podcast platform.
Please subscribe to Newslaundry. Help us keep news independent. To catch all our podcasts on news, pop culture, current affairs and sport, visit newslaundry.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.